This is a special episode of the Ideas Lab podcast. I wanted to get out really quickly. It's the audio from a Facebook Live I did on my personal profile on Monday, the 16th of March, 2020. You can find a link to actually watch me on video on the podcast page of theideaslab.org. But in it, I talk about how to make sense of the situation we're in now with the coronavirus spreading around the world and the massive impact it's going to have on the economy as so many things are shut and we have to stay home. Now, this is not a negative thing that's full of doom and gloom. It's actually primarily about a mindset you can adopt that's going to help you to make the best out of this very shocking situation. In addition, if you're concerned about your job and you want a plan B to be ready to work for yourself if something goes wrong, or if you already work for yourself and what you do has been disrupted by the coronavirus, I've put together something that could really help you, but is completely free of charge. It's called the 5-Day Startup Challenge, and it starts on Monday, the 23rd of March. And what we're going to be doing is helping you to find an idea for a business or for a product or a new offer, a new service that you can put out into the world, test it out, prove that people want it, and actually quite possibly make your first sale or win your first client. Keep listening to hear more about that. Or if you want to register now, you can do so at theideaslab.org. I want to talk about the coronavirus and some other stuff related to that, which affects people who want to be an entrepreneur or want to take control of their lives. So I was thinking about this and what's happening with the coronavirus, and the government described it as a once-in-a-generation experience. It's obviously very serious. None of us have ever experienced anything like this in our life before, what's happening with the coronavirus. And I think what's going to happen over the next week or two is it's going to get worse before it gets better. So there's some dark times ahead, or some challenging times at least. I don't want to be negative about this, but let's be realistic. It's pretty serious. Now, the good news is that the vast majority of us are going to survive, even if we get the coronavirus. In fact, even the majority of elderly people over 80 will survive if they get the coronavirus. The vast majority, but it's still really serious because it affects a lot of people. A lot of people are going to end up in hospital. And I think the biggest threat is the overwhelming of the NHS. So I went out last night and went to the cinema, and that's quite possibly the last time I'm going to be going out for quite a while. And I think within a week or two, we'll see some sort of lockdown in the UK. Things are moving very fast. The number of known cases is doubling every 5 days. So within 5 days, things will look very different, and in 2 weeks, it'll look very different again. And so what we'll see is the government will do things as they've said they're going to here in the UK, and we'll see some of the measures we're seeing in other countries. And some of that will just mean closing restaurants and bars, cinemas, so people not going out. And interestingly, people are saying, well, I won't do that and I won't go to big events, or just, stay home and socialise with friends. If you watch the video with Boris Johnson and the two advisors, it was actually really good because it was science-based. They pointed out actually that's one of the ways people transmit it most. So you have dinner with 4 or 5 people and you're sitting right opposite each other, and it's like the maximum transmission. It's actually worse than being at an outdoor football game with 10,000 people. So one of the reasons they haven't cancelled those things is because their concern is that people replace it with going to the pub and being in a much smaller, confined area, much closer to people. But those things will change. And in fact, I think all the football matches have been cancelled anyway. So what does this mean for people who want to start a business? And I think, I wrote so long ago, 10 years ago, in Screw It, Let's Play, saying, at times of great unrest, because we were just coming out, I wrote this book in 2009. I'm pointing over there, but you can't see it. I wrote Screw It, Let's Play in 2009. And I said, look, when there's a time of, this is after the crash, right, the banking crisis. When there's a time of great disruption, that's not the time to stick your head in the sand. I know that's the instinct, But that's really not a good idea at all. What you need to do is you need to be working on your plan B and your plan C and your plan D. You know, as somebody, I was watching Rob Moore the other day, and he was talking about how he's been planning plan A, B, C, and D. And you need to have a plan, because this is going to be pretty severe for the economy, quite possibly more than it is actually for our health, although I don't want to downplay that. And, you know, we're seeing the stock market go down. We're seeing, you know, people talking about a recession. We'll see, unfortunately, businesses go out of business. We'll see people lose their jobs, which is, you know, going to be really hard on people. There is also an opportunity to do something good and to do something that's going to help people, and there's an opportunity to take what you do and take it online. There's an opportunity to create a business that could be generally helpful to people right now in the middle of all this chaos. And I think that's important to realize. And a number of people who I really respect say that although the stock market's dropped dramatically, it will come back and the fundamentals actually look good. Not everybody agrees with this, but Naval Ravikant, I think, is a good guide. He's an investor in Silicon Valley. He's a fascinating guy to listen to. He's Naval, Naval, on Twitter. And he's saying that actually it's an overreaction currently. And a few people have said that in terms of the stock market. But we could well see at least some sort of short-term recession. The good thing is that longer term, you know, the indicators are quite good. And it's still the case that there's never been a better time to start something of your own, even now, because I know it seems crazy to think about starting a business right now or starting a solo career or something. But, you know, if you're in a job, for instance, you really should be thinking about what you'll do if your company struggles and may let people go. I really want to encourage you to have that plan B. Even if you don't leave and you stay in your job, you're going to feel a lot better. So don't stick your head in the sand. Think about what you can do to start exploring other options, because it's way, way better to have all that thought through and to know what you're going to do and have experimented with it, rather than finding yourself, you know, going into work on Monday and your boss saying, well, that's it, it's all over. And then you have to start all that thinking. You don't even know what you're going to do, never mind how you're going to do it and having started on it. Now, for me, I'm quite fortunate. I run an online business. I can kind of hole up here. This is my home. It's a live workspace. It's also the Ideas Lab where I run meetings sometimes. And I can work completely online at home. So I'm very lucky in that sense already. And I'm running something in a week, starts on Monday the 23rd, which is free of charge, called the 5-Day Startup Challenge. So I kind of thought at one point, maybe this people won't want to join. And then actually what I've seen is last time we had 500 people. I sent out a quick email. We've already got a couple of hundred registered. And we're sending out the same message to probably about 100,000 people this week through all my partners and friends and colleagues and stuff. And so what we're shooting for is to get 1,000 people on this challenge. And during it's a challenge just to explain, I've run a number of things like this before, but this will be the biggest one and completely free of charge. And the aim is to find an idea that excites you for a business or a new solo career, put it out into the world, test it out in 5 days. Now you might think that's terrible timing. Well, in actual fact, it's really good timing because, like I say, you need a plan B right now. Secondly, whenever there's disruption and the market changes, huge new opportunities open up. So, it's really bad news if you run a bar right now, if you run a cinema, an airline, it's really bad. I was about to book a flight to New York to see a friend, and now we're not even allowed into New York if I went there. So, those things are very serious, but also at the same time, we need home delivery. So Amazon, I'm sure, is having a boom period. Home delivery firms, restaurants that deliver are going to have a good time. But also, there's all sorts of things, new things we haven't even seen before that people need. I mean, my God, if you sell hand sanitizer right now, you're going to be doing well. Or toilet paper, for some reason. But aside from that, if we do go into this period of either voluntary or forced isolation, what are we going to do? People are going to get bored. People want entertaining. They want to be entertained. They want to do something useful. If you're currently going to stay home and do nothing else, then then do join us on the 5-day startup challenge, because what else are you going to be doing? Watching Netflix and, drinking wine or something on your own. So was that just me? So instead of doing that, come and do something fun with a whole bunch of people who are really friendly and supportive. But also, think about what you can create that people need right now. There are things people need that didn't exist that they didn't need 3 months ago. Some people are going to come out of this thing with very successful businesses. People are going to come out of this thing, and we will come out of this thing eventually. Not to downplay, but it's going to have a big impact. But there will be light at the end of the tunnel. And several months from now, we will have a better shape for this. We will know more science. We will have perhaps some retroviral things that help. We'll know exactly how it transmits and how it doesn't. The whole world's scientific community is working on it, which is really good news. And it may die down somewhat in the summer. There's, mixed ideas about that. It may come back in the winter next year. Maybe we'll have a working vaccine. So at some point in a few years, it might even mutate into something softer. Apparently these things tend to mutate into something softer rather than mutating into something worse. So certainly in a few years it'll be gone, but it'll in a few months, things will look different. We'll know more. And we will be coming out of this. I mean, it's going to be, if that happens, if we have at least a lull in the summer, then probably we're going to have a kind of wildest summer we've ever had. Everyone's going to be going out. Everyone's going to be wanting to meet up and drink and eat and whatever else. It'll be a boom period for those people who can keep their businesses going in between. So I think that's kind of what I want to say. Don't stick your head in the sand. Think about what you could create for people. It could be a non-profit, to be honest. I work mostly with people who want a business to at least be self-sustaining, because it's a lot easier that way rather than trying to get funding or something. But you could do something completely free of charge. And you could create something that allows your community to connect, or allows people to arrange deliveries for the elderly. Or you could start a YouTube channel that just makes people laugh. That just, tells jokes about the situation we're in. Some video over the next month or so is going to go mega viral. Some video that is a comedy or that's touching story or something is going to go mega viral. And that person will quite possibly become famous for that reason and launch, an entire career off the back of it, as people have done. So whenever there's disruption and change, there is opportunity. And so what we're going to be doing in the 5-day startup challenge, starting in a week's time on Monday the 23rd, is trying to keep a positive outlook, which is not easy for me because my mind naturally goes to a very dark place, as some of yours might do. But try and keep a positive outlook. And basically, what we're really dealing with is that when we feel that what's happening with the coronavirus is it's triggering all our kind of feelings of helplessness around illness and death, which are there anyway, and are more intense in some of us than others. Some of us have had traumatic childhoods and so on, as I've experienced. But for those of us that had a rough time, it's going to press all sorts of buttons. So I can feel it pressing my buttons, and I'm making a conscious effort to keep a positive outlook and stay positive. And I think that's really important. Dark thoughts, never, says Jack. Yes, it's true. It can be catastrophic. So I'm making a conscious effort to keep my mind out of the gutter. And that's what we'll be doing, not to pretend that, everything's fine, but to actually what it's about, what I was about to say, it's about taking control of our lives. So, for a lot of us, we live our lives in a somewhat passive way, particularly if you've got a job, if you've been through the normal education system, you are encouraged to be somewhat passive. You wait for what your boss says. You wait for what your teacher, when you're a child, you wait for what your teacher says, before you can put your hand up or say something or go to the toilet, whatever it is. Everything's waiting for permission. The journey to becoming an entrepreneur is one that is really good for you, for your own self-development. So in fact, that's really the underlying theme of a lot of my work and of the 5-day startup challenge. So people imagine, if you're not very used to it, that entrepreneurship is about learning marketing tricks and learning how to price things and negotiate and stuff like that and spot a good business idea. Now, those are really useful skills. Most people don't have those things naturally. I'm not sure anyone has them naturally. Maybe some people do. Philip Green did, apparently, judging by the film I saw last night, but not necessarily put them to good use. But actually, there's a much bigger part to that. You can Google an awful lot of stuff you need to know about, for instance, marketing. You can Google, you can buy a book. I can tell you which ones. You can buy my books, in fact. But the tougher thing is to turn your mindset around from somebody who is passive and who, waits to see how things will turn out and takes a hold of your life and makes shit happen. That's really the hard work of entrepreneurship. People sometimes, when they join my course, they'll get this thing called the Pioneer Program, which 50-something people have been through now. And some people have gone on to create amazing businesses. I've got other clients who've created 7-figure businesses, in fact. And some people sort of fall off. And the reason there's that difference is your ability, and I will do everything I can to make sure you're in the winning camp, that ability to take control of things and realize that you create your own future and you create your own reality. Not 100%, it's not like you can control everything about the coronavirus, obviously. But that ability to which was really hard won for me, to be able to come up with an idea and then make it a reality. It's an incredibly exciting thing to do. So whether you come out of the 5-day challenge having made money or not, because that is a challenge, we want you to ideally get your first sale. Actually, the sale might be a free sale, but it's great when people actually make money. I've run it with people in my Pioneer program. Some of them made thousands of pounds and euros and stuff. But if you're starting completely from scratch, you might just get a whole lot of clarity about your idea and talk to people about it and get excited about it and find out that people really want it and how you can pitch it and then maybe get somebody to buy it for free for the first time. It's that ability to take an idea, make it happen, makes it feel like, it shows that you have some control over your destiny. And it's an incredible self-development feat, particularly if you're someone who doesn't find that particularly easy. That's the challenge of entrepreneurship. And that's basically our main focus during this 5-day startup challenge. How can we turn you into somebody who thinks like an entrepreneur? Now, yes, that includes some thinking about pricing and marketing and so on. But much more importantly, somebody who thinks like, there's a shift that I wrote about. I've got a new book coming out in the summer. I forget how much I'm allowed to say, Jacqueline, my agent. So I'll say very little. But anyway, there's a new thing coming out this summer. And I put a line in it that said, basically, the job of being an entrepreneur is, the entrepreneur mindset is about, instead of asking yourself, will this work? So a lot of beginning entrepreneurs say that about their business ideas. I wonder if this will work. I'll see if it works. And seasoned entrepreneurs say, I'm going to fucking well make this work. And it's that energy that you will do whatever it takes to realize something in the world, to make it come into being, is a really incredible thing to have. And I have to, like I said, it doesn't come naturally to me. I have to continually work on it so that my mind doesn't go to the dark place of like, oh, it's all useless, things are going to go wrong or whatever, I'm going to die of some disease or whatever it is my brain says to me most days. So instead of that, say like, oh God, imagine if I could create this, and like, oh, wouldn't this be fun? Or wouldn't this be cool for that to be out there in the world? So I want you to have that experience. If you want to take part in the 5-day startup challenge, I reckon I'm still shooting for 1,000 people. Why not? So if you want to come along to that, you can find it I'll put the link in the description or in the comments afterwards, which I forgot to do before I started. It's at theideaslab.org, which is my website for my company, /5DC, number 5DC. So I'll put that in the comments later. Some people are going to do amazing things in this time. And I think it's really exciting, as well as quite scary and to be taken seriously. But yeah, it's, let's make it a time of that Chinese cliche of, I don't know if it's even true, but the Chinese character for crisis is the same as opportunity. It is actually in reality, whether that is true grammatically, I don't know. But But whenever there's a crisis, there's an opportunity. And an opportunity, if nothing else, to go out and help people and create something. If you create a really funny YouTube channel right now, people are going to be very grateful. And whether you make, a little bit of money off ads or whether it actually turns into something amazing, who knows? But at least it would be better than sitting at home reading the news, because I think that will have limited benefit after a while. Okay, well, thanks everyone for joining in. I should do some more of these Facebook Lives, shouldn't I, really? I'm always telling my clients to do them. So I have to set an example. I will try and do more Facebook Lives, and I'll do some a bit more interactive and ask some questions about stuff. So Monday the 23rd is the start of the 5-day startup challenge. It's completely free. Find a business idea or some kind of project idea, test it out in the market, find the marketing angle for it, get it out there and see if you can make your first sale, win your first client in 5 days. It's really a lot of fun as well as anything else. And I think it will be a good thing to keep ourselves kind of entertained, if nothing else, but it will be also an exciting and positive experience. So I hope to see you in there. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Ideas Lab podcast. Please do subscribe, and if you've enjoyed this episode, it would be great if you could leave us a review. You can get links and details of everything mentioned in the podcast in the show notes, along with photos and video clips from many of our episodes. Just go to theideaslab.org/podcast.